Hey, what's up, everyone? Brad Chmielewski, and this is episode 178. Hopefully, you enjoyed last week's episode with Kirby Barbie, hearing about coming back into the Vainglory scene and the community and just everything she's kind of thinking about and doing within the game now. This week, taking a little break from the news and kind of what's happening in the scene to talk with the guys from the Time For Rolling Esports podcast. They're putting out 2 episodes a week. It's an insane amount of content about the esports scene, breaking down games, talking about plays. Go over there, subscribe, check them out. If you're a fan of esports at all, you should be listening to them. It's awesome to hear other people's insights on, if you're watching them, just to hear what other people think and say about it. So go over there, check that out. We just chat about Mobile Masters, what's coming up with Churnwalker in this next split. Is Gangstar gonna, hang on to their Vainglory 8 spot, is Rogue gonna get that wild card spot? Yeah, talk about a lot of different stuff in the Vainglory esports scene. Little short episode, a little different. Hopefully you enjoy it. If not, let me know. shatterthevain@gmail.com. Or if you do enjoy it, let me know. shatterthevain@gmail.com. Always love getting those emails, hearing what everyone thinks or what they'd like to hear differently on the show. Let's do it. Let's jump into this week's episode.
Shatter the Vain.
This is episode 178 of Shatter the Vain. My name is Brad Chmielewski, and this is a podcast all about Vainglory. Every week, I try to break down the news, gameplay, game tips, and hopefully we can all become better players together. And every week, bringing on people from the community, people that love this game, talk about it, and support it. And this week, I have the guys from Time For Rolling Esports podcast joining me. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, Brad?
How's it going, man?
Hey, good to have you guys here. It's really funny listening to you guys and now talking directly to you in voice. So it's a fun experience when you listen to someone multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, we've been listening to you forever, so it's kind of weird being like, now we're on Shatter the Vain. It's kind of crazy.
Cool. So if people haven't heard of your guys' podcast, do you want to give a little introduction of who you guys are and what you guys do on that?
So I am Endless. My real name is Tyler. My brother and I, Crude, say hi.
Hello, my name is Zach, my real name. But yeah, Crude Sloth is what I go by.
So yeah, we had the idea of, starting a podcast last spring, all about Vainglory Esports. We fell in love with Vainglory, started following the competitive scene pretty early on. Mm-hmm. And we would just talk about it all the time, always send texts back and forth. Did you see this? Did you see that? And when Time had started their original podcast, I reached out to them and said I had an idea about maybe doing one solely focused on esports. And next thing you know, we started it and we're almost 50 episodes in, and it's just been a wild ride, honestly.
That's awesome. So keep talking about the podcast, and we'll step back to how you guys got here. But why start it with Time For Rolling and not just start it on your own? What was the thought there, or the benefit in your guys' mind?
Well, for me, it was more of I didn't know how to do anything at all when it came to podcasting, recording, how to do any of it. I know if Crude's the same way, pretty much he struggles how to even answer a phone call.
Oh yeah, I don't know, it's just I'm not very tech savvy, so
okay.
Endless definitely has some more of that, but we could definitely reach out. We reached out to a guy named Arvin and a lady named Blico, mm-hmm. and they both, for anyone who doesn't know them or whatever, but they both kind of got us started on that. So I mean, they knew all about it. Obviously they already had that Time For Rolling podcast where it was kind of like the community and stuff like that. And they were definitely willing to help us set up our own and kind of get us started and tell us all the stuff that we needed. So
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it was just a platform because we're not really known in the community. We're just casual people. Like we would just, we just watch Vainglory. So we kind of use them to help, spread the new podcast, and it was really just a great platform to kind of put us out there early on.
Mm-hmm. And now you guys, you said you're 50 something in, and they have Bleeko's kind of, left for a while, and she can't really record. So you guys are kind of keeping the Time For Rolling name going there.
Yeah, essentially.
That's cool. So then I guess stepping back, how did you guys find Vainglory? How did you get into it?
So about, I think it was 2014, I just started school at the university, and I saw the commercial on, of course, the Apple keynote, kind of like that original story a lot of people tell. I've always been a gamer. I've watched on, being on Twitch and stuff. I saw League of Legends. I just didn't have like the computer or like the money to, have a gaming computer to play it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, this game looks a lot like, League of Legends. So I picked it up, started playing it. I got some friends at school to play it with me. And at the time, Crude was still, Xbox only. He kind of made fun of me for playing Vainglory. He says, I'm not playing that game on the phone. But eventually I got him into it. And yeah, he fell in love pretty much right away.
Yeah, definitely. Like we were hardcore Xbox or PlayStation gamers, the old stuff going all the way back to like Nintendo and stuff like that. So when I saw that, there's a game on a phone, I was just like, what? Come on, I'm not wasting my time with that. Like that can't be that fun. And I was like, it took him a while to get me actually into it. And then I was like, all right, I'll play it just to, make you happy and stuff. And then I was like, lo and behold, I actually started to fall in love with it. And I mean, the rest is history. We just kept playing it from there on out. Been playing it for what, 2 years now? Almost 3 years.
I sold my Xbox. I don't even have that anymore. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah,
I did not do that.
I was going to ask, do you still play other games, or it's kind of this is about it?
I'm about ready to buy my gaming desktop. I've saved up enough money, so I'll probably venture into more of the PC gaming world. Obviously, the famous player battlegrounds. But as of right now, I really only barely have time to play Vainglory. So really just Vainglory right now.
Yeah, same with me, to be honest. I still have my Xbox, play every once in a while, not very often. But I mean, to be honest, with, just real life stuff and then this podcast and stuff, it just takes up a lot of time. So I don't find myself playing that as much. And when I do have that free time, I am playing Vainglory. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, she said the mindset of the mobile game kind of took a little while to convince there. Do you think that still is in place like here now, 2 years later? Do you think people are still thinking it's a mobile game and not taking it seriously? Or have you seen that idea change a little bit?
I feel like people that give it a chance, truly give it a chance, can kind of, see that Vainglory does have some depth to it. It takes a lot of skill. It's not just, you log on every 4 hours when you can play your next turn, not like that Candy Crush style game. But I mean, it's hard to reach those people. Hopefully, after this year, 5v5, maybe more people will think it's like a legit game. But, people just have to give it a try. If we had maybe more people come over from ex League of Legends players that saw it and they played it and they, vouched for it, that would definitely help a lot. But I don't know, Crude, have you changed your mind for sure about mobile?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have. I really like it. Especially, just the touch. It's not like you're pressing buttons and stuff. I don't know. That's a personal preference for me. It's different to get used to it when you go from, buttons or the keyboard and mouse, whatever you use, whatever you play with, to doing that touch. But I really like it. Kind of ditto to what Endless said as far as, League of Legends, getting some of those players over here and stuff. And I think that 5v5 or trying to touch out to people who play that game, I think that would be a big factor in helping get people to play Vainglory and get them glued into Vainglory.
Yeah, it might just think because it is 3v3, there might be the mindset, well, it's a mobile game, it's 3v3, that means it's not as good. Like, they can't even do 5v5? Come on, right? I bet some people think that. So maybe that will change. So then, as you guys were playing and getting into the game, the esports scene has been blown up over the past, I think, really the year has been probably the changing point when they went to the Vainglory 8 has been the biggest factor. So you guys must have been watching just it all the time for the idea to have a podcast about it.
Yeah, so I mean, the one story we like to tell is that when Ardent and Gangstars were over there at the VIPL in Korea, Crude and I actually set our alarms at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., whatever it was, and we got up early that day just so we could watch the live final. So we've been watching early on. Before Crude got into it, I was watching Blueberries and Don John just stream those 2v2 matches in the lane when they had to be they had to be the spectator. So, per se. So, I mean, I've been watching forever. We watched for fun. We would watch when we could. And, now we watch and, just be able to talk about it and kind of just record our conversations we would have anyways.
Mm-hmm. So while you were watching, there was no thoughts of trying to go pro or get that good to be a professional player, or were you always just like, hey, I'm good being a fan, and watching?
I mean, I think that kind of ran across our minds at one point, and we quickly came to realization that we are not near as good mechanically skilled as some of those players, and we should just stick to something that we know can help Vainglory, and that's just talking about it. And I mean, that's what we love to do. We when we play together, it goes smoothly. I would say sometimes. Other times it gets a little aggressive and a little bit of you missed this or you did this wrong. And so, yeah, no, I would say competitively we thought about it and it was like, nah, we're not even close to that level. So.
Yeah, I mean, we, of course, brothers. So when I'm not at school, we're in the same house. So we get to communicate, be right next to each other, and we kind of always joke around. We live in a very small town in the country in the middle of Indiana. So our internet isn't the greatest. So we always joked around and said, if we had good internet, then we could be the pros. But our internet is what holds us back. That's what our excuses are.
Well, that's good that I think you guys, I guess, realize that, because I think there's a lot of players that play the game that think they are as good as some of these pro players, and they should be able to, I don't know, make some of these plays that they see them make. Right. And that's right. It's always hard to separate yourself from hey, no, they are just way better than you.
I mean, when Gabe Vizzle and Flash X make it look that easy, yeah, it's pretty easy to think that you make it look that easy and you can crucible and block anything, but it's not that easy. So
right. So then now watching it basically for almost a job, because you're putting out these episodes and you're having to talk about it. Has that changed how you pay attention to what's happening in the games now?
Early on, I would say Crude and I both struggle with this because, we would probably play Vainglory on the weekends while watching. We wouldn't be as invested. Crude and I both take notes. We have to take screenshots of every game. So it is a lot more work. I think I've finally gotten, we wanted to do this for fun. So I didn't want to get to the point where we were dreading having to do it. Some weekends it can be frustrating because we have, life happens. We have to do other things. We have to do a lot of work to catch back up. So I'm still having fun with it. That's the main goal. The podcast is going to continue to go on as long as we're having fun. But, it did change our perspective on, esports or Vainglory esports altogether. Just in the aspect of, how much time we were watching, and, we invest a lot in some of the players too, because we, watch them every weekend. Some players, we want to see them succeed. So yeah, I think we've invested a lot.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with Endless on that. A lot of people don't, I mean, it's more than just getting on and recording for an hour, watching Saturday and Sunday, taking, like you said, taking those notes, taking those screenshots, getting on, talking about what we're going to talk about, how we're going to do it. It takes a lot to plan. Getting two people, let alone three. We have Belligerent now, who's kind of coming on with us a little bit. Nice. Trying to getting those schedules all worked out and stuff. It can be a little hectic, and but yeah, I would agree with kind of what Endless said there. So.
Mm-hmm. So then, what have you guys been seeing or noticing over the past, I guess, couple months here since we saw Head Worlds happen, and Cloud9 has just been rocking it lately. Did you guys see that coming, or did you expect that as you were watching over the last, month or so?
I mean, TSM, they obviously live together out there in Las Vegas. They've always been kind of a team that people thought they had the strongest synergy. They're the strongest team, but we've seen now, and it's kind of been proven through Spring Unified Summer Unified that, when Cloud9 comes together, they get to practice and be on stage together. Gabe has mentioned in interviews that it just changes their team altogether, and they feel that they can't be stopped in that situation. But I mean, Vainglory has always been TSM Cloud9. That's kind of always been the discussion. So, recently seeing Rogue and Nova and, Immortal/Tribe, these teams are obviously DNZO has the biggest stage live buff possible, but, seeing these teams starting to become, just as competitive. There was a time when Crude and I joked that it was just Cloud9 and TSM in the finals every time. So, getting more diversity and Vainglory is nice. Having teams, become more stronger. I don't know, Crude. Did I say everything you wanted to say? Crude always gets mad at me on our podcast because I go first and then I say everything possible, and he has nothing left to say.
Yeah, he's like, all right, so what do you got to say about this? And I'm like, you covered everything I wanted to say. But I guess the only thing that I would want to say is kind of like, to make a point that, these players, C9 and TSM normally are at the top, especially for NA. But like, if we talk about Europe a little bit, like one example I can give is like G2, how they were so good in that, I believe it was the summer championship the summer, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the word I'm trying to say here.
Talking about the Unified or?
No, just the season. I'm sorry, just like the regular season, they were good, and then they were like gone. Anyway, my point I'm trying to make is that real life happens with these players too. So one week it can be C9 just dominating, and then like TSM out of nowhere, they haven't been that good, but then they go and this weekend they just run the entire gauntlet. So I think a big factor with that as well is like how much time they have to prepare. What houses they're in, if they're in a house together, if they're not. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. So.
Yeah, we're coming off of the Mobile Masters. It was the past weekend. We're recording shortly after that here this episode. But yeah, TSM kind of just came in and reminded everyone, hey, by the way, we know how to play this game. Stop underestimating us. I think people were starting to be like, yeah, TSM is letting it slip. What are they doing out there? Rogue and Nova have just been coming up, and Cloud9 or TSM has been just not performing week after week. But then the Mobile Masters coming in, 7-game sweep? That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing with esports, I guess, is that, some players kind of retire early, or they can, you hear players in other esports that they get burnt out early. So, I mean, I was kind of getting worried seeing TSM struggle a lot, maybe that they were starting to get burnt out, putting a lot of time in. But, Flash said on stream that, Chuck and, Vancia putting in extra practice, starting to realize that, they're not the most dominant out there. And I was happy to see them win 7 games in a row for the last weekend on Mobile Masters.
Mm-hmm. Was there any standout games that you guys saw out of those 7? I think the one I probably paid attention to the most was the one against Ace, because that was kind of, I think maybe one of the more hyped up ones. How's NA going to do against one of these other regions? And Ace came in, and I was worried when they stole that Kraken. It did not look good for TSM.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Ace Gaming was the biggest matchup just because, we've seen TSM and C9 play time and time again. So a lot of people were kind of curious about that cross region. And I mean, we've even seen, multiple times before with EU versus NA, but you don't get to see that EA versus EU or EA versus NA. They kind of have their own until Worlds. You get to see that basically once a year. So that was definitely the biggest one I think most people had their eyes on. Endless, what do you got to say about it?
I mean, of course, it's nice to see NA continue to assert their dominance on EU. SK, they've won the first three weekends of Split 1. SK's looking dominant. No Europe team's really touching them right now, but it was still a rough matchup for them. TSM, handled them pretty well, but yeah, the Ace Gaming, that was a classic matchup where the last team fight, whoever wins it was going to win the game. It came down to the last push. That Kraken steal was huge for Ace, and it was back and forth, and I would probably say it was one of the more exciting matchups of the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when TSM was taking that Kraken the first time, I was just watching. I'm like, this is just seems like a bad idea. Like, I was like, I wouldn't be doing this. Like, they're just hoping that it goes well here. And it didn't go well.
No, definitely not. Sometimes you make a shot call that is a little questionable, and you hope it still works out for your team.
Yeah, just it's a fingers crossed type thing, you know.
Yeah. But then the battles against Rogue and Cloud9, like we were saying earlier, Rogue, week after week this last season has been, I don't know, just showing that they have been playing so well together. Their synergy is just improving every game they play. Like I've talked to them a couple times, and it's really cool to see where they came from and where they're at now.
Yeah, I mean, even having Sibs did come on and play that first game against Cloud9 because Pawn was feeling ill, he said at the time. So I mean, even Sibs came on, he played really well. Flash X, whatever he says goes. And during an interview on stream, he said that Rogue is a team to look out for, and they had struggled in the spring seasons. I think they had finished close to pretty much last, I think, but they've been working, and that synergy is coming together. And Rogue is definitely a team to watch out for. Definitely a team if they don't get first in the split, maybe a team that could maybe cop a wild card place from SEMC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rogue and Nova are the two teams I'd be looking out for I guess underdogs, not as well known as what TSM and C9. I think those are the two teams that can really push to make a surprise this split.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're coming into this second half of the split here. I believe it starts this weekend, or just happened after this episode airs. And I believe they're going to be playing on this latest update with Churnwalker. I'm excited to see what Gabe Vizzle and Flash X do. And I think whenever a patch happens, it just changes the entire game. And it's fun to see who adapts and who doesn't, doesn't put in the time there. I think that would be the biggest factor probably coming up in this second half of the split. Do you guys have any thoughts on how Churnwalker, do you think he's going to be played by these teams?
When heroes get introduced, sometimes it takes, the teams a week or a patch to figure out the hero. Who knows with these players too? They're creative. We may see weapon powered Churnwalker in the lane first game. Who knows what they're going to come up with? But I mean, the reality, I think he's going to be a playmaker. His kit is interesting. It's going to be fun to maybe see a Crystal Saw, shank a Treant and get the kill through the chain. So, I mean, that'll be interesting to see. Obviously we have 2 new items for Crystal, the Crystal build pass as well. So there's been tons of arguments on Twitter, if you guys are on the Vainglory Twitter universe, about, which build path is best, which one you get the most damage. So I'm just waiting to see what the pros build, so then I can start building that in my
exactly
games.
Yeah. I'll just build these, and they don't work, so I need someone to tell me.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is I'm waiting to see what the pros do, because I mean they changed the meta. They set the meta. I mean, whatever they're playing is what people are playing. So yeah, kind of like what Endless said, when you have a weapon powered Churnwalker, get ready for solo queue, because people are going to be trying it, and it's just not going to work out for that solo queue like it does for them, because they practice that. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see this meta and see how much it changes. I do hope we get to see some Churnwalker, kind of like what Endless said though too. I don't know if we'll see a whole lot of it. People either will, they'll get scared of it and they'll just ban it away because they haven't practiced it or don't know how to counter it, or it'll be able to get picked through and we'll be able to see some Churnwalker. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. So I have to talk about what do you guys think Gangstars is going to do? Being a member of Gangstars and helping them out for a while now, watching them struggle this season has not been good. Do you think they could turn it around and hang on to their Vainglory 8 spot?
When it comes to their Vainglory 8 spot, whether or not, I think challengers will happen at the end. It may be rough for them. Xeno obviously being the one player who's kind of been around for a while. I think Gangstars just need to try to hold out for 5v5 and see what happens, or maybe hold out for the end of the season and figure out their roster. I know Xeno was maybe going to go somewhere else, but there wasn't much time in between seasons, so he stuck around with Gangstars. Obviously, Gangstars is a team that Crude and I have been fans of since the early days, with Iraqi, of course, being there, and Call the Meek. So it can be rough for him, especially when you bring in a brand new laner like that. People give probably Gangsters a lot of grief for being, not as strong this season, but it's not easy to do. You play teams like Cloud9 and TSM who've been together for so long. It's going to be hard to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Endless. It's hard for me as a fan. It's hard to watch Gangstar's in the position they're in. I do think they'll be able to kind of come through this and, either they keep playing together and they get their synergy better, or if they're gonna have to rebuild the team a little bit. But like Endless said as well, it'll be interesting when 5v5 comes around. Be a lot more players in here, and we'll see if they can't get a new team build up. I sure hope they do, because I mean, like Endless said, I've been watching them since day one, so they're definitely a favorite of mine, and I hope they do well. But as far as this split, it's going to be rough for them.
Yeah, taking away Iraqi, like you forget how much like the one player could just be the glue of the team or even the organization at that point. That's just like it's tough. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's kind of like a rebuilding season for them a little bit. So hopefully they can either build up this team and kind of make it work, or find somebody else, or find a new set of players that maybe are playing together in the challenger leagues right now and kind of pick them up and hopefully, hang on to their spot. I hope they hang on to their spot.
Yeah, we gotta, the grassroots organizations, we gotta keep them around. They started in VG, so.
For sure, yeah. Well, awesome, guys. Well, what's coming up on your guys' podcast? Anything else you guys have planned that you're going to be doing different, or people should be looking out for?
We're going to finish up this split for autumn, and then we'll have a nice little break, probably leading up to Worlds. Hopefully we'll be able to do some interviews, get some interesting people on. Hopefully maybe talk about 5v5, maybe get someone who knows a little more behind the scenes and what to expect with 5v5, especially if they're going to be, previewing that match at Worlds. But really, it's just going to be leading up the hype to Worlds. Just keep hopefully doing our 2 episodes a week and just keep enjoying some Vainglory Esports.
Yep.
That's
all I got. Yep.
Yeah, I should mention there's 2 episodes a week. That's crazy. That's a crazy time commitment. I put out 1 and it's already like, oh man, I'm already thinking about, as soon as you record 1, you're like, all right, what's happening for next week? I don't have time to digest that at all.
Yeah, the 2 episodes, it was rough to decide because, consumers, whether they want a 2-hour episode or if they would want 2 episodes that are shorter. But, even us can be long-winded, and the next thing you know, we still are doing 2 episodes a week that are both around an hour. So, it's a lot of work, but as long as my life isn't falling in shambles because of it, I think we're going to try to keep up with the 2 episodes a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you're sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night, then you're like, yeah, I don't know if this is worth it. Watch all these games and talk about it.
Yeah, trying to hold out for 5v5. So maybe the Vainglory community can maybe grow, our podcast can grow, and we're just trying to stick it out for the long run.
Cool. Well, what's the best place for people to find episodes? Is it subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud? Where's the best place to look?
Currently, we have them on SoundCloud, and they get pushed out, obviously, to iTunes and Google Play. We are also trying to work on a website where we can have, all the episodes right there on the website, kind of have one place to go for, all of our episodes. We obviously do the Gold from the Fold, which Ginger and the Beard, they're the ones that kind of put the highlights together for us to try to have all that on one place. Our Twitter, obviously, we will tweet out a lot of the stuff. We try to be as interactive on Twitter as possible when it comes to esports things. You can follow us at TFR_esports. We love interacting with people there. We have our own personal Twitters, but we don't really use those as much. TFR is our main one. So I don't know, Crude, if you want to give your Twitter out.
What is it? Crude Sloth VG? I don't know. You know it better than I do. That's how much I use it. I mean,
yeah, Crude Sloth VG. Endless. Mine's Endless 55 VG.
Nice. Well, I'll include links in the description. Everyone should go over there, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff for you guys. So, yeah, it's awesome. Especially as we're losing more podcasts with the alternating current going away. It's always good to see new one, you guys going well, and want to see new ones come in. I know I've seen a couple people talk about maybe starting one too. So I hope.
Yeah, I mean, from podcaster to podcaster, we appreciate what you do. We know it does take time. So, I mean, I don't if no one else understands it, at least we understand each other and how much time it takes, you know.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you can follow Shatter the Vain on Twitter at Shatter the Vain, and then the episodes go up on shatterthevain.com. And that'll do it for this week's episode, guys. Thanks for taking time. I know you got to record an episode here after this, so I'll let you get to that and continue talking about some more Vainglory. Take care.
Let's get this over with.